further ado, what I would like to do is hand it over to Ulya Khan, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Taviti Health. She brings in over 25 years of really great network management experience, product development, and helping grow the companies with her, growth strategies that she had built and executed. Uh, at Taviti, she leads the almost 14,000 fitness centers, over 1,000 instructors, and over 40,000 practitioners. Uh, and then she oversees, many different product lines within Taviti, including Silver Sneakers, Prime Fitness, and Whole Health Living. And she, I know that not only within her own organization, she's a public speaker, and she really enjoys, uh, having individuals and organizations, achieve their goals in terms of growth, in terms of going to the next level. So, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Ulya. Ulya, I will make you presenter, and then you can share your slides.
Thank you, Zahir. And as soon as you make me the presenter, I will share my screen. Okay, here are the controls. Let's see. Technology keeps up. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah, it's good to go.
Okay, excellent. Well, what can I say except welcome and well done for those of you who have taken the trouble to dial into today's session, because this really is the first important step. And we thought January would be a great month to offer a session on professional development and how to get to the C-suite for those of you who want to get to the C-suite, or even how to get board seats. Because once you're in the C-suite, the next thing is, okay, how do I get on a company board? So the objective of the session today really is to help those of you who are on this call today, help you really develop a better understanding of how to do some deliberate planning around your professional and personal development. Because these are some of the slides that I put together, and it's a culmination of my own experiences. You are not going to find it in any book that's off the shelf, because it really is my own journey and my own experiences, which after a while I had so many people coming to me for career advice that I thought, hey, maybe I can pull something together and make it usable, so that people know how to do this, because it is a repeatable process and it can be done. So what I look to do today is, expanding your understanding on how you can take charge and control of your own professional development and your career, because many of the people who come to me for advice are wherever they are purely by accident. So again, this is the agenda slide where, I'm not going to bore you by going through it line by line, but you get the gist of what it is that we are going to try and cover today. And I know Zahir and the team are going to put out a poll, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that poll. So the professional development planning, as I said, many people come to me for career advice, and it doesn't matter what their age is. In fact, there was, recently, not too long ago, a gentleman by the name of Vince came to me for advice, and he was 52 years old. And he came to me for advice because I had taken over as Chief Operating Officer and Chief Product Officer of this company activity. And every time I go into a new company, I, get the teams together and I introduce myself. And so this guy had attended my session, and he came to see me right after, and he said, Ulya, I'm 52 years old and I'm still a project manager. And when I heard you speaking, I see that a lot of, your background is similar to mine. You've done a computer science degree, you've done management, but yet you are the Chief Operating and Product Officer here, and I'm still a project manager. What's the difference? I only asked him one question. I said, Vince, where are you trying to get to? Do you have a plan for the next 3 years or 5 years? And at 52 years old, the guy looked at me like it was a trick question. He was stumped by this question. which essentially is the age-old question of what do I want to be when I grow up? And he said, I really haven't thought about it in a while. Let me go away and think about it, and I'll come back to you. And basically, this gentleman went away, never came back to me, started avoiding me in corridors. And then one day he said to me, "Oh, I'm going on vacation, and I promise you, while I'm there, I'm going to create my own development plan, and then I will come and seek your advice." Well, of course, by this time I was becoming quite skeptical whether this guy will ever take the first step. Lo and behold, Vince went on a 2-week vacation, came back. I had a meeting on my calendar with Vince, and he came into my office with his personal development, professional development plan in hand. And he said he was on a beach working on this plan, and he had his first aha. And his aha was that he really wanted to be a sales engineer. And he had spent all these years in project management, and the job that he really wanted to do did not even exist in the company where he was at. So basically, my intent was not to kick Vince out of the company, but he actually, was enlightened after he did his own planning and went and found a job that was more appropriate. So again, the way to think about your career is, where do you want to be in the next 3 years or next 5 years? And the reason for the 2 time horizons is that, if you are early starter in your career, not even in middle management, then you may well want to think about 5-year chunks. But from mid-management onwards, it's actually better to think about blocks of 3 years. Where do you want to be the next 3 years? And one way to think about it, what does that job look like? What is that role? What's the title? So on and so forth. And once you have identified where you want to be in the next time horizon, then you need to almost do a rewind and do a real assessment of you. What if you were a product? What are your skills? What are your qualifications right now? And what are the qualifications and skills needed by that person, that position where you want to get to in the next 3 years? So that really boils down to a gap analysis exercise. And as you do this exercise, it is really, really important to have a realistic understanding of your own strengths and your core competencies. And I have deliberately separated out strengths from core competencies because our strengths are very much things that come to us naturally, whereas core competencies are things that we have learned over the years through repetition, by doing them again and again. And the important thing is that the core competence, you may be very competent in an area that you don't even enjoy. You might be competent in doing certain things that you find boring, but you are competent. And the reason to understand the difference between strengths and competencies is that sometimes you need certain competencies that you may not even like to get to a certain place, and those competencies become the bargaining chip, or in order to carve the path to your next role. So basically, this is how you start on your development plan, which once you have it, and as part of this session, you will see there's a Word document which really takes you step by step on this journey and makes it really, really easy for you to create a development plan. Now, which once you have it, you really should try and update it once every quarter. And if that becomes difficult, then at least once every 6 months, it's a good idea to update it. Now, the other thing to remember is once you do have a development plan, please don't keep it a secret, because the whole point is once you have decided where you are trying to get to, you need to advertise it. You need to communicate it, because you never know who might be able to help you get there. So do not make it a state secret, please. Do go out and share it with as many people as you can. Now, what happens in development planning is, whether we like it or not, there are other people who can make a huge difference in how fast we get there and whether or not we get there at all. And that's point number 9 is understanding, how mentors, sponsors, and others can really help you along the way. Now, mentors are really, really important. And personally, for me, I realized the importance of mentors a little bit late in my career, but hopefully not too late. So mentors are people, who are typically quite senior that you look up to. Maybe you even want to follow their path. But mentor is typically somebody who you would have to feel comfortable sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly with. So mentors can really be good advisors, and they can push you and they can help you with your planning. But you have to be comfortable and willing to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with them. Now, the sponsors, in most organizations, people don't necessarily stop to think who my sponsors are, but it's really important to know who your sponsors are in any organization that you might be part of. A lot of the time, the sponsorship starts from your immediate boss or your boss's boss. Now, the thing about sponsors is that you want to tell your sponsors the good, and the good, because they are the ones who will sing your praises, and they are the ones who will promote you and who will, help you move along the way. Advisors are also important, but keep in mind that anybody can be an advisor. It really depends on what sort of advice you are going after. The other interesting thing about advisors is that, as we move up the career ladder, sometimes the mentors are you need to change mentors along the way. It's quite unlikely that the mentor that you started with will stay with you throughout your journey. So, in fact, one of the questions I have often had people ask me is, hey, I had so-and-so who's been a great mentor, but now I think I have outgrown that person. What do I do? Do I go and tell them you are not my mentor anymore? And will they feel used and abused? Well, that's not how you do it. Basically, you don't have to say anything to your mentor, but you can go and find a new mentor who is more suitable to where you're at. And your prior mentors can turn into great advisors, because remember, they know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So turn those mentors into advisors. Don't really, spell it out for them, but they, keep them in your life and in your circle. And then, of course, coaches. Like every winning team needs a coach. So don't underestimate what a coach can do for you in your career. And you can have paid coaching and unpaid coaching, and I would actually recommend hiring a paid coach once you get to, I would say at least into senior management for sure, VP, SVP, and above. Now, last but not least, this category of power brokers is something that, when I talk about it, people say they've never heard the term of power brokers with regard to career and professional development planning. But the power brokers, it's really, really important to have power brokers in your professional network. And power brokers really are people who are very, very powerful, so powerful that one phone call from them can move things for people. But by definition, these power brokers are also extremely busy people. So you have to be careful in terms of how you engage them and how you keep on their radar. So, for example, one of my power brokers is one of my ex-bosses from Reuters, Thomson Reuters, and his name is Devin Wenning. Devin is now the CEO of eBay, and of course, a very, very busy guy. So how do I stay in touch with Devin? Well, I obviously, send him a New Year's message. I track eBay every time some, good news comes, something happens. I send him a congratulations note, or would send him a link to an article that I think he might be interested in, etc. So, just make sure you keep on their radar. And if you can get to a network of, 10 or 15 power brokers in your network, I would say that's great. So why don't you take a moment and take a step back and jot down who the power brokers might be in your network right now, and maybe you haven't thought about them as power brokers. And once you've jotted that down, then think about how do you go around expanding your network of power brokers. Okay. So this empowerment slide is interesting because the reason I included this is when people come for career advice and professional advice, it's almost like they think that career is in somebody else's hands. Somebody else will be able to do stuff for them. Well, guess what? It's not. You have to feel empowered to be managing your own career. Empowerment lies within us. And the challenge is, when will we find that empowerment inside of us so that we can develop a solid plan and then have, once you have a solid professional development plan, with it comes a sense of empowerment. You suddenly feel like you are in the driver's seat. You are not a pawn in a chess game where people can just move you from, one square to another. You are going to do your own moves. So that's really what you need to get to, is this sense of empowerment through developing your own plan. So the next few points really are, my own learnings, and when I reflect on my own career, there are certain things which I just think, wow, I wish somebody had told me this. So point number one is obviously that, sometimes, especially people from South Asia, we have been taught modesty. We have been taught not to blow our own trumpet. We have been taught, keep your head down, work really hard, and then the reward fairy will tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, here is the next promotion, and here is more pay. Well, guess what? Doesn't work that way. So hard work is rewarding, but it's even more rewarding when you advertise it. So it is okay to blow your own trumpet. And choose your moment carefully. Obviously, you can't just be obnoxious about it either. The other important point, and this is important, especially in this day and age where we have remote working, off-campus working, teams are split in, many, many places. Just remember that no matter how senior you are, out of sight is out of mind. So, for example, if the corporate office is wherever and that's where the power resides, make sure that in your cadence you have basically put visits to this corporate office and meetings, face-to-face meetings with people who are important, power brokers, or important in the game of politics. We all have it in the workplace, whether we like it or not. So out of sight, out of mind, try to be visible. The other point, number 3, is really not to ignore perceptions, because unfortunately, if not managed properly, perceptions have a habit of becoming reality. So pay attention to, idle chat, gossip, water cooler conversations, and just be alert to those things and make sure you are managing the perceptions correctly. Assumptions can also be very, very dangerous. So it's better not to assume and rather to state the obvious, because again, I have been bitten a couple of times with, making certain assumptions and only to realize that they were wrong. Again, with so much, so many channels to communicate over, there still remains a communication gap in most organizations. So just remember, there is no such thing as over communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. The other thing that, again, I realized, I think halfway through my career, is to take a page out of the salesman's book, that a no really means not now. So when you go and ask for that next promotion or more money or whatever, and your boss says, no, I can't do that. No, not now. So just don't be disheartened. Every time you hear a no, just think not now. And Zafar and others who are, in the sales, consultative selling, they know only too well that, you can never be disheartened by a no. Just put a not now and ask again later. the stop feeling guilty piece is interesting, and especially for the women and working mothers, because we in particular have a nasty habit of always feeling guilty. If we are in the workplace, we are ignoring our families, we are ignoring our kids. If we are with the kids, something at work is not happening. Well, guess what? Stop feeling guilty because you are not going to be able to please everybody. So just focus on yourself and focus on what makes you and your family happy. So for me, a few years ago, I was